And that's when he knew, hey, this is a body. Hey family, and welcome back to another episode on our true crime series. If you are new, my name is Artryssa and this is my husband Herschel, and we decided to create a true crime series to shine light on true crimes as well as to share different episodes from true crime series that we have watched. Now today, y'all, after watching this, I knew I had to share it with you guys. So if you guys have seen, this is from the
worst roommate ever.
The worst roommate ever. It's an episode from there. If you've watched it, this is episode 1, and you already know who I'm talking about, y'all. Today we're talking about Dorothea Puente. Dorothea was a 50-something-year-old woman who was killing several people in her home. So she had like a boarding home where she would let people who had disabilities, alcoholics, elderly people come live with her. She provided food and lodging, rooms, and everything for them. A lot of them didn't have much family, so when it came down to their Social Security checks, she would be the payee, so she can sign off on them and cash them for them. And that's exactly what she did. Now, according to her community, Dorothea was this loving old lady. She loved cats. She loved her community. She gave back to her community. She donated to charity. She fed the community. So when it came down to the community, they viewed her as this loving old lady, this loving grandma. She was this hero. She was a pillar in the community, and everybody loved her. According to them, she couldn't harm a fly. So on the episode that we watched, this guy named Bert, he had schizophrenia, and the lady that found him wanted to get him in to another home because he was living in a facility that was for alcoholics, right? So she wanted to get him in, not I don't want to say a better living situation, but she wanted to get him in a different living situation.
More of like a good retirement home,
right?
Not a recovery center, because he wasn't recovering from nothing. He just needed special attention.
Definitely. That's exactly it. And so a guy that she knew recommended this home. And, they went out, they looked at the home, and he agreed, to live here. So after, a few months, she would call and check on him periodically. And this one particular time, Dorothy told her that Bert had went to Mexico with some of her family because they was having this big fiesta. And right then, she knew something wasn't right because she was like, that's not like Bert. According to his background, she just knew that wasn't something that Bert would do. But Dorothea assured her that he will be back like on a Friday. And so she called to check on Bert on Friday. And Dorothea proceeded to tell her, well, he's not back yet. He'll be back in a few more days. And she was like, no, Monday morning, I'm going to file a missing persons report on Bert. And that's exactly what she did. So when she got to work Monday, she had a phone call. And somebody from the house that stayed with Dorothea called her to let her know that Bert had came back. And now he was with some of his family. Well, she knew that that was not true because of Bert's situation. Family wasn't around him. He left, younger off because they would put him in different facilities and the medicine would make him sick, and he really didn't like that. So he really left and went off on his own. Okay, so after a while, she finally, contacted the police. The police went out to do a wellness check. They didn't find Bert. They ended up talking to everybody that stayed in the home, and their stories was the same. Every last one of them. Bert came back. He left with a family member. It was one particular guy who slid the officers a note and told them that she wanted him to lie. So they bring him back to the precinct and he tells them, she wanted me to lie. She wanted me to tell y'all that he had came back and left with his family. She wanted me to say that she wasn't there, but that's all a lie. And she told me she'll make it worth my while. So they went out to assess the house. They're looking around. One thing that they did find often was little blue pills in the dressers or on the dresser. It was a lot of them laying around. And before they left, they asked if they could dig in her backyard. And at first she was hesitant. She was asking, what for? But she agreed to let them dig around in her backyard. Well, while digging in the backyard, the officer was saying he was pulling up something that felt like beef jerky. And then he was pulling up pieces of clothing. He finally hit a bone and pulled it out. And that's when he knew, hey, this is a body. So he found that body in her backyard. He went on to find 9 more bodies, or 8 more bodies. 8 more bodies, 9 bodies total.
Yeah, it was 9 total, but he found buried in their backyard, it was 8.
Oh, my
Ridiculous.
God.
Ridiculous. And then she proceeded to say, can I go across the street and drink coffee?
With my friend. It's just right across the street. And so the guy, they didn't have anything to hold her or to connect her to the bodies. So he was like, okay, she's this old lady. And keep in mind, y'all, she was in her 50s, but she portrayed herself to be way older than what she was. The lady that took Bert to the house said they were actually the same age when everything unraveled, but she told her that she was 15 years older than her. So she walked around, she kept makeup on. She dressed like an elderly lady. And that's how she wanted to be seen. But yeah, they discovered the bodies in her backyard. One of the gentlemen that was on the show said his mom and Dorothea became really, really close. Dorothea always talked about opening this restaurant and how she just needed, extra funds. Well, his mom had the funds and decided to go in with Dorothea to open a restaurant. So at this point, they have this business going. But Dorothea will always come and say, hey, we need more money for this, or hey, we need more money for that. And she would give her more money. It came to a point where she didn't have any more money and they had to close the doors. Well, this drove his mom into a depression. She was really, really depressed. Dorothea made them feel so comfortable. She was like, well, call me grandma. His mom decided to move in with Dorothea. And he came over one day and noticed that his mom was drinking alcohol. Now, that was a red flag to him because he knew his mom didn't like alcohol and he knew that she didn't like the way it made her feel. So that alone was a red flag, right? So he ended up coming back the following day. Dorothea didn't want him to see her. She was like, well, she's sleeping, just let her sleep. He was like, no, that's my mom. I'm going in here to see my mom. So he goes in the room and sits on the bed. She's not saying anything, but her eyes are open. He's talking to her and he was like, it's okay. Dorothea says she's a nurse. She'll take care of you. Everything's going to be okay. So he put his hand on her shoulder and a tear rolled down her face. Y'all, this woman would poison people. She was poisoning people.
Putting it in their drink.
And another guy had came forward saying she did this to him. She had been to jail several times prior. And one of the times it was for poisoning people. He was saying how he was laying there, his eyes was open. He could see exactly what she was doing, but he couldn't move. He was paralyzed. And she went to jail for that. She also went to jail for forging checks. She left home really, really early, around the age of 16. And she became a prostitute. Not long after that, she became a madam. So she was known to be, in and out of the system. She was known to go to jail.
She was different. She was literally living a life of crime.
She was basically getting people under her wing, and after so long, she would kill them. Now, my main question is why they wasn't catching her. Like, she was already in the system. Why, when, all these reports was going on, why was they not catching on to what she was doing?
She was working the system good, like, because she was portraying to be this old lady. For one, they didn't want to catch her because they felt like, well, it was actually true. Like, it was proof that she was donating to the community. Mm-hmm. She was, you know what I'm
Big
saying?
In
so,
the
like,
community.
She was a super good lady in their eyes because that's what she portrayed it to be.
Right.
So, what she was basically doing was she was painting this picture of this grandma, this lovely lady, and things like that. So, if they ever was to get a hold of her coattail, they wouldn't believe it. It'll be hard for them to actually be like, hey, this lady doing this because we know her from doing this.
Right.
Now, when that other guy said he went over, well, after his mom had died, remember she called him and told him that, hey, come get your mom things. And he said when he got there, it was just her purse. He said his mom had money, jewelry. His mom had jewelry, everything was an empty purse. And she told him that she gave me everything. Here's her purse and basically leave. Like, you can just go. That is crazy.
That is crazy. Another reason why they couldn't find her is because she had been married several times. Mm-hmm. And so she went by different last names. Even though she was on probation, which you shouldn't be having a boarding home and you're on probation. But she was on probation, but she knew how to work the system. She knew. But this was so crazy to me, y'all. If y'all haven't seen it, y'all definitely need to go see it, or y'all can look her up, Dorothea Puente. The home that she had could not be knocked down because it was built, so long ago. Is considered historical. So the house is still standing today in California. You can find all this information on social media platforms. And I do want to read off the names of the victims that she killed. And like I said, one of them was her ex-husband. They got married. He moved in with her, and like 15 days later, she killed him.
This lady was no joke.
For sure. She would, when they discovered all this, she had all this cash on her. She would tell people that she was independently wealthy. But the whole time she was cashing these people's Social Security checks and killing them. So her first victim was 53-year-old Ruth, who died from an overdose of codeine and acetaminophen. They ruled it a suicide at the time, but they went back and was like, okay, yeah, she killed her. The next is Malcolm McKenzie, who was 74 years old. The next one was 77-year-old Everson Gilmith. The next one, let me find the others. Well, on here, they only list those three, and they only list the three that she was convicted for. Now, they discovered 9 bodies. 8 was discovered in her backyard, and 1 was discovered close to a river in a box that she put there. And that one was her husband. But at the time, they didn't know who it was, so it was like a John Doe. But yeah, she was only convicted on 3, and she ended up dying in prison at the age of 82. So yeah.
She was literally an old serial killer.
She was a serial killer.
And she poisoned all of them the same way with the same drugs. She would put it in their drink and just have most of these people was disabled. They was all elderly people.
Disabled or mentally ill or, alcoholics or something.
And she was cashing their checks. Some of these people's Social Security check was only $60. Yeah. She didn't care. She wanted it all.
That is so sad to me. That is so sad. And then I think about Ruth, who was the guy's mom that I was telling you guys about. And the fact that he went there and sat on the bed with his mom, knowing at that time she was probably paralyzed and couldn't do anything, couldn't move, couldn't say anything. But for her to start crying, and he not know that, it's crazy. Tough. It is so crazy.
She definitely qualifies for the worst roommate ever.
Yes, for
Definitely.
sure. For sure. You cannot judge a book by its cover because you never know. You never know. Well, I really wanted to just bring you guys this information because it blew my mind as I was watching it. I honestly was like, oh my goodness. Like, I
Definitely
couldn't
a good
believe
one.
it. I couldn't believe it watching it. So, if you guys haven't seen it, you can watch that on Netflix. The Worst Roommate Ever. That's the very first episode. We want to thank you guys for rocking with us and for watching our videos. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. We drop videos every Monday and Friday. If you haven't, give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. If you have any true crimes that you want us to cover, any cases that you want us to shine light on, we will definitely do so. We thank y'all, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.